The first time I saw him at a conference at Council Grove, when he agreed to do this healing thing and to have everybody watch, and he was setting up for this, and he said, I don't have my usual circumstance that I have, but we usually respond when the need is there. I later, knowing him, I was able to hear about and later write about what I think I called the flowers, summer flower from winter snow or something. You know, he said when the need is there, you can, a particular herb, you can, it's just there. If the need is strong enough, it's there. And what he said at Council Grove, and I remember it, is when the need is there, he said, you can take a glass of water. You can be far away in the mountains and you can take a glass of water from a mountain stream and you can hold it up to the sun and it'll be medicine when the need is there. And I thought, now really what happens if you look at that under the microscope? Would it be changed? Possibly. Or would simply its effect on the patient be changed when the need is there? But the point is, what I'm saying is that in one sense we can use, if I may, for lack of a better word, use the word use, we can use the crises of the moment. And in some way people don't like to have them mentioned, but in another way it's sort of a relief to mention them because everybody's thinking about them all the time. I mean, we could list them. There's what? There's the pollution of the rivers by the chemicals and the chemistry plants. There's the danger of the nuclear power plants and everything they're doing and all the catastrophes that happened around there, and yet, you know, they're still going on. There's the economic whole thing now and the recession and a lot of changes happening in between nations on the planet, and some looks good and some looks funny. There's the hole in the ozone. There's the potential of earthquakes, you know. And I mean, how many? There's so many things that we could list. We could run out of water. We could. I mean, look at the situation. And one of the things that's really important as step number one is to name the situation. Name the issue. Name the circumstance. It's like if somebody goes into a holistic therapist to work with visualization and meditation and whatever. And the therapist asks the patient, are you in a great deal of pain? And the patient says, I will not accept it. I tell myself I'm not in pain. And the therapist says, are you in pain? And they don't want to say, I'm in pain. Do you have cancer? What's wrong with you? What is the issue here? See, a lot of people think, no, I'm supposed to say, no, nothing's wrong. I am well, everything is right, I feel no pain. And the good therapist says, I want you to tell the truth. I want you to tell me if it hurts. Sometimes they break down and cry. And they say the first step is to say, it hurts like mad, I can hardly stand it. Because if not, there's nothing you can do that's powerful. There's no visualization that you can do. There's no affirmation that you can do without that little voice inside saying, well, it's a lie, but I'm thinking positive. I'm not telling the truth, but I'm supposed to lie. I'm supposed to deny. I'm supposed to be positive. See, that's an error. So the first thing we have to do is we have to look at the issues. We have to really face, we have to be able to say everything's falling apart. The so-called culture that we have in our society right now isn't even a culture, number one, but if we go so far as say it's culture, it's no good. It doesn't work. It's not ethical, it's not logical, it's not healthful, it's just not right. Because we got to change it. And we have to do it together. So the first thing is, we get over the denial. We look at the issue. And once we look at the issue, Then we realize how it is that affirmation works, how it is that the power works. You don't say, "It doesn't hurt." And you don't say, "I am well." You always look at the process and the outcome in all the visualization. Use present progressive, use present progressive, use present progressive. Make an affirmation, make a statement. Use present progressive. It is doing this. I am getting this. I am feeling now. In the visualizations we did, you know, the average person can learn to warm the temperature in the periphery, and it's increased blood flow. It's a change in the parasympathetic system. You know all about those, the whole autonomic system. And you with a little training, and it only takes minutes. The average person can increase the temperature in the periphery as much as 10 degrees. And of course you don't know how you do it. Not when you get really good, like some of the yogis do. You can increase the temperature on one side of your hand 5 degrees while you're decreasing the temperature on the other side 5 degrees, making a 10-degree difference between this side and this side. That's a little more sophisticated. But again, it's within the realm of possibility. And it's done with visualization, the same way you scratch your head or take a drink of water. You picture yourself doing it, and the rest takes care of itself. Somewhere the knowledge is in there, and it comes forward to meet the situation. So you make a present progressive situation. You say, this is happening. So when I was doing the training that, and learning how, and then later I was running subjects up at Menninger as part of the research program, and we did it in some of our workshops. Take these little temperature training and take a thermistor, a little thermometer, and what do you say? My hands are getting warm. I feel the blood flowing through my shoulders, down my arms, and into my hands. It's a process. It's an ing. It's a present progressive. It's a happening. It's a going on toward an outcome. So you name the situation, you get clear on the outcome, and then you use present progressive. You see it happening, and it happens. The shaman is always outcome oriented, always outcome oriented. The shaman always responds to a crisis. There's no such thing as buying some tapes, going to a seminar, practicing the drums, going to a group, learning, and deciding to be a shaman. Now, in the old times, the shaman was always appointed. You couldn't appoint yourself. You were picked. You couldn't decide, well, I have an aspiration to be a shaman. I think this is the difference between then and now, because we don't have those structures anymore. You may recognize the need. You may respond. You may be a shaman. But it has nothing to do with personal evolution. It has nothing to do with personal growth. It has nothing to do with self-improvement or self-enhancement. It's always 911. It's always an emergency. It's always you have clear in mind what it is that needs you and what it is that's going to benefit. First, that's step number one. Before you begin, you've got to have a clear idea of to whom or what this accrues. And then it almost takes care of itself. Just like the guy lifting up the car, like the medicine bag coming from the Berkeley Hills across the water in an energy matrix purely, and then manifesting again in his hands. And it can be explained. Easier said than done, in fact. But it can be explained. It's within the realm of possibility, but it's, to him, you see, he used that need. To us, we probably couldn't get into the need of it, the tobacco, before going on live TV. Why? But to him, the need was there, and it was real, and it was earnest, and of course, he's had some practice. And once you start seeing how it works, and once you start doing it, and you get more into it and more used to it, it works more and more and more and more. But you need those ingredients. You need the crisis, and then you need your response, like the guy who heard help and walked off the trail. And from then on, the rest is, I mean, there's work involved and there's training, but from then on it happens. You never need to seek. You will be sought. All you need to do is step online. All you need to do is admit the crisis, admit your willingness to respond to help. Admit your availability, or arrange it if you have to. And the power comes, like Don once said, it is arranged by power. It's arranged by the need. So you can take advantage of a crisis. There's another old Korean story. I also learned it in Korean. I saw it in a play. There was this group called the Green something or other, and they put on these plays, and it was beautiful. They had a ballet part. Oh, they had dancers, they had singers, they had actors. They had like as many as all the rest of them that were craftsmen. They changed the scene every few minutes. I mean, it was beautiful to watch. I've never seen, but then I haven't been in every country, but I've never seen any place, any culture where there were such beautiful scenery was used in such a beautiful way. I mean, you felt like you were really there. And this was in old times. It was an old Korean village. Of course, I'm looking on the stage, but this is an old Korean village, mostly agriculture, somewhere in South Korea, where these two brothers lived, Hongbu and Nolbu. And Hongbu was the older brother, and Nolbu was the younger brother. And, the tradition says that it's always the first son of the first son of the first son of the first son. The lineage goes down, and so does the heritage, and the farm, and the land, and the authority. So when the parents die, the first son takes over. And the first son gets the farm and all the land. And it's his responsibility and his honor, as well as his duty, you see, to parcel the land out to the younger and the younger and the younger, to the rest of the family. But this elder brother, there only were two sons in that family, Hongbu and Nolbu, and this elder brother, Hongbu, was mean and selfish. And when the parents died and Hongbu inherited all the land, you see, he was trying to think about how he could have all this for himself. Nolbu was just in the way. He get part of it, it's up to me. And he married a nasty woman. She was so selfish. Send him away, get him out of here. I don't want to, this is our land. You can send him away, you'll have to do it. They kicked him out. Nolbu got sent away, homeless. Wandering through those old woods, down in that farmland. And there was Hongbu with all his estate and his wicked wife. We got all this to ourselves. Don't let him come back here again. I don't want to see his face around here trying to pinch off of us. This is yours by right. But Nolbu was a kindly sort, and he met a beautiful woman. And they built a hut together, right there in the forest. And they had a happy life because they were so kind, and they were so loving. And they had this beautiful life together. And not long after they began to make their life together and built their place, they realized they could support themselves by growing food and going out and gathering berries in the woods. There was plenty. There was all they needed. They didn't ask for anything more. They forgot about Hongbu and his wicked wife. And one day while they were walking on the trail, they saw a swallow lying on the ground with a broken wing. And compassionate as they were, they picked the poor thing up in their hands and they took it home and put it in a cage and put a splint. Carefully, they splinted this wing just right so that it would mend. And they fed the poor swallow. And when the swallow was well enough to fly, they took the splint off first and they let it fly a little bit around the house, and then they let it go back to its people, having healed it, back to normal. They went out in front of their little hut by their garden and they released the swallow. When I saw that on the stage, I swore there was a real swallow flew from their hands and flew up. And suddenly the scene changed right before our eyes, and the ballet dancers came on. And we were there in the realm of the swallows. And this swallow came flying in, but then it was a dancer. And it danced out and sang this story about how it was found on the trail and put in a cage and mended back to health. And these kind people released it. And all the swallows danced and rejoiced. And then again, we're back in front of the hut, out by the garden. And a group of swallows fly over, and you see the seeds dropping into the garden. They dropped seeds, and they flew away. And Nolbu and his beautiful wife went on with their life, and they saw that something was new growing in the garden. And they cared for it, just naturally, like everything else. You care for living things. And they watered these plants. But then they grew like pumpkins, then like huge pumpkins, big, big gourds. They grew bigger and bigger and bigger. They didn't give it too much mind, except, you know, it's unnatural. I mean, it's uncanny, but they're living things. They're beautiful. Let them live. Take care of them. And they took care of the garden. But you see, the time came when these big gourds, there were 3 of them, were almost as big as the hut. And they were standing out in the garden on the day those things burst. And beautiful jewels, emeralds, rubies, everything flew out all over. They had wealth like you couldn't imagine in those days. And being the kind sort that they were, they shared their wealth with the village. And people were able to buy pumps and put in pipes and mend their roofs. And the village began to thrive. Nobody got carried away. Everybody was helped. There were many of them. The wealth got spread equally. Somehow, Hongbu found out about this, and he sent spies. And you see, Nobu and his wife, they hid nothing. They realized what had happened. They guessed because they saw the seeds drop. They were out by the garden, and they said, well, we helped to swallow it. And I think it was, they're magical. They sent us seeds. Magical seeds. So the spy came back and said the story going around the village is they helped to swallow back to health who had broken its wing. And they got these magic seeds from the realm of the swallows. They got all this wealth. All right, said Hongbu's wife, we'll do the same. And they looked for a swallow with a broken wing and they didn't see one. Well, let's catch one. So they're out there in their huge garden in there, all their estate and buildings, with these nets, trying to get a swallow. And they got one. But, says Hongbu, it doesn't have a broken wing. I wish its wing was broken so we could fix it. And the nasty woman goes, smash! Ha, there it is. Oh, you poor thing, she says, and picked it up. We'll mend you back to health and you'll go tell the others. And so they put a splint on the wing and they put it in the cage. Feed it, give it food. And they fed, this poor thing was force fed. Come on, eat. You know, we're taking care of you. Men, get well. Is it well yet? Can it fly? No, not yet. Well, hurry up. So finally the thing got so that it could fly back. And then, all right, go tell the others. And the swallow flew away. Now we see the dancers again. Beautiful dance in its horror. All in black these dancers were, and they were angry. They heard the story. They couldn't believe such a thing could be done. And Hongbu and his wife were out in the garden, and the swallows flew over and dropped seeds. There they are. Get the water can. Water. Come on, let's have them grow. And they did. They grew, and they were big, huge things. When are they going to split open? When do we get the jewels? And as the play ends, you see, Hongbu's wife, she can't stand it any longer. She goes and gets a hatchet and busts this thing open. And again, I swear they were real, living on this stage. I don't know, crawled out these horrible, slimy green snakes out of all 3 of them. Tons of snakes, and chased them off their property. And they never came back. Well, it's true, you see, that sometimes, I mean, we don't go to those extremes, but sometimes there's a little bit of a hint of a fine line, like, where do you think of a crisis as an opportunity? Oh, good, you know. Yeah, you can see it. You can see that you've heard stories about people, oh, good, I'll find some pathetic whatever, and you know what goes around comes around, and karma and all that, and I'll give change and I'll get it back twofold, and et cetera, you know. So you look for a crisis so that you can be empowered, you know. Okay, I'm going to help, I'll get my just deserts. But we can tell the difference, but, you know, I mean, we're not going to do anything like that with a swallow. But, or anything like that, even symbolically. But the point is that one needs to distinguish a little bit. One needs to realize, therefore, and it's hard for us to do it because particularly in our culture, the way it's set up, it makes it hard to do it. But you have to always let go of yourself. You have to let go of your sort of your personal goals and your personal aims in a sense, except as they fit. You make them fit. You don't really not have a person anymore, but as they fit into a larger picture. You're always trying to expand the picture. So some of the yogis say, do not look for the fruits of your labor, lest you be tempted to eat the fruits of the labor, and then what good has your work become in terms of an offering? I went a couple times to this meditation group up in Minneapolis. One of the Hindu the teachers up there, Usharbud Arya, he had the meditation. Did you ever hear the Minneapolis? It's got a different name now, but I think they just called it the Meditation Center. And people would go to meditate. And some going for the first time might be surprised to hear his meaning or not get the meaning exactly. I used to hear about meditation from the group at Ojai, who sends out these pamphlets and these things. Because you see, so many people thought, well, meditation is the way that you come on to your enlightenment, and when you walk down the street, you'll just be beautiful and radiant. Everybody say, oh, look at that beautiful, radiant person. You'll think, see, thank God for my meditation. I've become so charming and so wonderful, and everywhere I go, I spread beauty, and aren't I wonderful? Not that there's not something to that. But you see, what the Ojai group said is meditation is not something that you do to improve yourself. It is not something you do to reach toward enlightenment. It is not something that you do for happiness or joy or to attain some sort of euphoric state. Meditation is nothing other than preparation for service. It's nothing other than letting go of yourself sufficiently enough that you can be available to see what might be called the cosmic cause. And that's what meditation is. So they had all this talk about, you don't even feel like you participate. You don't even feel like you plug in. It's not like you're trying to be a little part of the big picture. You just let go. Let go of your beingness. Let go of your self-awareness in terms of an individual separate self. Let go of the illusion of separateness. That's what meditation does. But we're in this dilemma. That's why I had that little essays in the Mystics book, and I used to tell that in our meditation about the tree, like it's like a leaf on a tree, letting go of the consciousness of being a leaf on a tree for a moment so that it does not interfere with the tree consciousness of the tree. So you see, the way you say it is all the leaves are busy saying, I am a leaf, which they have to do. They have their duty. So this is me, I'm a leaf, and here are all the leaves next to me, and the leaves on the other branch, are them over there, and they can get into we, they, and all this identity stuff, you see. But a tree is a tree is a tree is a tree, and it includes the leaves and the bark and the branches and the roots and the whole thing. And we're leaves, but there's also the treeness of us collectively. And the dilemma is that if we can let go enough of the desire for personal experience, we can make it easier for the tree to experience itself as a tree because of the wholeness that we have allowed to have happen. But interestingly enough, it includes us, so we still have the experience. Except if you want to have a personal experience as a little leaf, the little leaf cannot experience as a little separate leaf the I am a tree experience of the tree. So this is kind of ironic. There's a little bit of a dilemma there. We have to let go of the desire for personal experience, for personal enhancement, for personal awareness, for personal evolving, for personal enlightenment in order to have it. So some people think, it's sad to say, let go of your personal self, let go of your personal agenda, let go of your personal desires. Because, we see in the soap operas and all the stories these beautiful things about, life and between people, and parting is such sweet sorrow, and oh, it's beautiful, and the tears and the whole things, and all people's personal trials and tribulations are so wonderful and so deep and meaningful. But they don't disappear. Nothing decreases. You just add. Your yard becomes bigger. You do indeed attain the ability to travel anywhere and realize there's no way to leave home. You're home wherever you are. You're always with friends. You're always with your people. You're always with the light. You just expand. Everything just expands. Nothing is lost in this letting go. So in a way, it's how to use the crisis. But in this meditation center where Dr. Sharvad Arya was leading the meditations, you see people would come in and there's a little bit of exercise and stretching, and they had some sort of yoga leader. And then he'd come in and he'd guide the meditation. It would go on for 45 minutes. And some people may have gotten a little bit tired of sitting in 45 minutes, but you know, some of the yogis sit for hours. But anyway, it goes on for 45 minutes, but it doesn't feel difficult. He makes it easy. It's quite beautiful. His capacity to lead the guided imagery, which takes up at least half of it. There's a certain amount of guided imagery, and then there's total silence, and then after a certain period of time, maybe 15, 20 minutes, his voice comes back in again. And you see all this stuff that he helps you see. You really see yourself as a smooth, smooth, smooth pearl, spinning, spinning, spinning on a clear, clear pool of water without a ripple. And that leads to another image, to another image, to another image. Anyway, 45 minutes pass. You see, there was a moment of silence, or several moments. Then he comes back in again with his voice, and then the time passes. And then instead of turning on the lights, somebody simply lights a little candle. Everybody opens his or her eyes, and it's still almost dark. There's another moment of silence, and then Dr. Arya says again, and he always does the same thing every time. If you feel that you have gained any personal benefit from having sat with us here today, please give it up. Please let it go. Please don't hold it for yourself. If you feel that you have gained any benefit, any peace, any joy, any awareness, please offer it up now and let it accrue to the myriad of living beings that inhabit the universe. That's what meditation is for. That's what it's all about. So the idea really is a combination of realizing the crisis. See, in one sense, we're at a moment of greater opportunity than humanity has ever had before. And I think the opportunity really lies in the capacity to have really quite a common population of shamans. I don't know, it's different in different tribes maybe. When I first went out to see Rolling Thunder, he said all these people here in this tribe could be called medicine people in a way. He said it's part of the tradition. He said they all know something about medicine, much more than you people do in your culture. And then the medicine people work with it, and it's like an assignment, it's like it's duty, it's like you're called on to do it. But today, it may sound funny to talk about, shamanism in terms of contemporary issues, but that's why I think we go on, and it looks kind of helpless. The 60s were so beautiful, and people said beautiful things, and they had the values right, and they had the outcome right, and they had the picture right, and they had the image right. And it really was very positive. It's a lot more negative now when a lot of people are really looking too much at the complaining side. Think of even some people who might be wanting to be very helpful activists might be doing a little bit of harm because of the fact that by stepping online, by being available, by getting out there, you're already plugging in, you're already connecting. So you're already empowered to quite an extent. And because you're empowered, your visualizations, your images carry a lot of weight. So you got to be careful what you're visualizing. Again, you have to admit the truth. I have this disease, or it hurts, or this is what I'm working on, this is the issue. But if the images, there are a lot of people who are of good heart and goodwill who are activists who are visualizing the falling down, visualizing the wrong outcome. And almost in order to fire up their protest and keep their motives up, they're visualizing the horrible outcomes. Some even have a vested interest. A lot of beautiful activists because of the fact that we've been raised this way in our culture to think this way, are looking forward to everything falling down so that the punishment comes out, because we've been raised in a punishment-conscious society. We believe in punishment. We believe that, you see, in the process of just desserts. So people have an investment in, I don't care if I have to go along with it, but these so-and-sos who brought all this about, they'll get their just desserts. It'll all come falling down. But if you visualize that, it's powerful in the wrong direction. So what to visualize, it becomes very important. But I really don't think that we've tried what might be called shamanism. And by shamanism, you see, shamanism is, so you think about the journeys, okay? So a shamanic journey. But everybody journeys. But what makes the shaman distinct is that the shaman journeys for what? To access the resources. The shaman is the one who can bring it back.